Hello, today we're going to talk about the American Dream film, and if you haven't already, then you should watch it because of obvious reasons. To start off, main characters had some interesting names. Pile, like it's a piling up debt. Not a normal name really, so I'm guessing that's what they intended for that name to aim towards. And his dog was actually named Dream. Dream as in the American dream. He lost his dream and they're trying to fight to get it back. And he needs to know the hard truth, Heartman, or perhaps as in Heartman, not just Hardman, that he's showing compassion and trying to help his fellow American, his fellow friend. The interesting aspect of the movie is that normally when you try to speak people with a different self-opinion or who is ignorant, is that they are not gonna listen to you at all. Either they're gonna reject what you say and say, no, that's crazy conspiracy theories, nah, that's not true. Or they just gonna attack you, like, no, that's not true, you're just racist, blah, blah, blah. You know, the usual propaganda stuff that they have been brainwashed with. But he's open, he's susceptible. And why is this? Yes, it's because Hartman had a pathway into his life from previous, like in the school, you remember. And that's why he opens up to his friend. Plus, he's in a desperate situation, which means he needs to rely on Hartman's advice because he's desperate. He needs a solution. So that's the two main reasons why he would listen to Hartman in the first place. But still, as you can realize through watching the movie, he's skeptic. And it's also to reflect on normal people that would watch the movie and be like, this is a bit too much, because they do tend to overdo with the animation, like the globalist bankers, they were like these snake things, etc. But it's just to engage into the audience and the dumb line they had at the meeting on the Jekyll Island. That is just to make it entertaining for people to watch. But the fact remains. The fact that they say that, for example, the Hamilton duel, Jackson, etc., those things were real if you study it. All you need to do is just search it up on Google. You got this huge search engine and you can just look up these crucial details in history. And I mean, the Federal Reserve, you can't even go close to that place. People like Mark Dice and other people like him have gone outside filming, protesting, but then they're gonna have their own private police come and escort you away because they don't want you to be there. And you know, they're very suspicious, take photos and everything. It's not like they're gonna be, no, you're making public disturbance. No, they're gonna, go and tell, oh, you can't be here, not even close. And they have armed guards. They're not joking around there. The movie was also, I must say, made in a very classical internet fashion way, because they made it in Flash. Flash was something I remember from watching my first videos on the internet, like those Osama bin Laden videos, the ones with Darth Vader in that rap, I Love Death music video, for example. I think they all were made in Flash, as in this movie was. So it's very easy to picture things, because I think what people have normally a problem with is to picture things like, oh, they're gonna talk about something, then they're gonna, oh, he's just blabbering. But if you're gonna also show a picture, like in a video, a picture in itself can say 1,000 words. But imagine if you have 60 frames a second, then it's gonna be quite alive, right? And that might convince people to understand or conceive the notions that the video maker is trying to make. General video stuff, but I think it's an important aspect as we talk about the movie to understand. But the important here is, I've been talking about globalism, and I think this movie is very much related to it, because these bankers are the globalists. And of course, the danger of it all, if they would gain total control of our money, etc., they would form a technocracy, our freedoms will die. Just like they explained in this movie, like they are trying to take away those people that fight for our freedom. Remember John F. Kennedy? He died trying to stop the Fed, trying to stop the central bank. Obviously, he was entangled in some other things as well. I mean, the CIA at that time was also rigging an election in Cuba, I think it was, but they failed miserably. So he heavily denounced the CIA because of their ill doings, because obviously that's not something you should do when you're in a democracy, to rig others' elections. But that have been proven in lots of others' elections throughout the world. For example, the 2012 elections in France was influenced by the CIA. And also there was a lot of reports of dead voters and illegal immigrants voting in the American election, where Trump won and Clinton thankfully lost. But still, he died along with his entire family. The Kennedy curse, as you might have heard. The entire family just died. I think almost everyone. It's really suspicious, and you should probably look it up. One FBI director, who investigated this murder case of John F. Kennedy, I think he said there was 2 shooters, and Kennedy was not shot once. And they were really sort of covert with the autopsy. They were not trying to reveal anything and make any big deal out of it in the media, etc. It was just that, oh yeah, he got shot. And people talking about it like once, but he was actually shot many times. And if you look on the video, it does look like he was shot in the throat first. And I think the main story is that he was shot in the head, but it was many shots. When you think about it, it's sort of hard to imagine it was many shots, because he was the only one getting shot and there was lots of people around him in the car, etc. So one of the shooters was right in front of him, and the other one, I don't remember his angle, but it's really suspicious, really, as he talks about these things.
Upsetting to many people. In 1976, the U.S. House of Representatives Select Committee on Assassinations was established. They determined a shot was fired from the grassy knoll and in summary believed, quote, on the basis of evidence available, President Kennedy was probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy, though they were unable to identify the other gunmen. Was Joseph Miltier involved or someone else? Don thinks time will tell, but it's also running out.
I mean, when we die off, when we're gone, there's not going to be anybody who's going to sit here and tell you these things. I hope the truth gets told, whatever it is.
Suzanne Stratford, Fox 8 News.
Now we have a similar president, well, not similar, the controversial Trump. He also says he's gonna take on the fight against globalism, and who knows if he will meet a similar fate, because obviously going against the Fed is not a good thing, generally speaking, because it's sort of a global mafia, and going against the mafia, trying to stop them, usually gets you killed. And I mean, if you look around these suspicious people like the Clintons, of their bodyguards and people who have worked with them, how many of them have committed supposed suicides, then it's very suspicious. I mean, lots of dead people, yes, even the chef have ended up drowned in a lake, and people who says they got information and it's gonna expose them, and in the rape cases, they also end up dead. Just out of nowhere. They kill themselves for no apparent reason. And sometimes, if someone is gonna go out and testify, oh, I worked so hard. I think there was a Polish guy who was gonna expose the Polish government, the last one, and he hanged himself. Why would he hang himself? It's a typical strategy to make it look like a suicide, because then the police will just have an easy time dismissing it, and the power freaks that are in power, corrupting everything, they can just keep on doing whatever they're doing. I mean, if you look at Hillary Clinton, how many mistakes haven't she made, and she's still in power? It's because these bankers, these globalists that have these presidents as puppets, you remember Woodrow Wilson, they will stay in power. They will have a good life. They will have their millions. But in the end, I don't think money will matter, because they will make money obsolete. Why have money when you can just have your stamps and everyone can have their food stamps, etc. They're gonna be in total dominant power, because obviously no one can challenge their power, no one can outgrow them in money, etc. Though it's technically impossible because of the tax, since we pay taxes to them. That's the insane part, that they can take our money from the people, private bankers, and take the trillions of dollars. I remember these court hearings where...
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Inspector Coleman, you're the Inspector General for the Federal Reserve, right? Okay.
That's correct.
Have you done any investigations concerning the Federal Reserve's role in deciding not to save Lehman Brothers, which led to shockwaves that went through the entire financial system?
In that particular area, you know, I don't generally comment on specific investigations, but we do not currently have an investigation in that particular area.
All right. What about the $1 trillion plus in expansion of the Federal Reserve's balance sheet since last September? Have you conducted any investigations regarding that?
Right now we have a, we call it a review, and so I don't know if the term investigation may have different connotations. So we're actually conducting a fairly high-level review of the various lending facilities collectively, which would include, you know, the TALF, a variety of the different programs that are in process. So we're looking at them at a fairly high level to identify risk.
Well, I understand that, but we're talking about events that started unfolding 8 months ago. Have you reached any conclusions about the Fed expanding its balance sheet by over $1 trillion since last September?
We have not yet reached any conclusions.
Do you know who received that money?
For the, we're in the process right now of doing our review, and
Right, but you're the Inspector General. My question to you specifically is, do you know who received that $1 trillion plus that the Fed extended and put on its balance sheet since last September? Do you know the identity of the recipients?
I do not know. We have not looked at that specific area at this particular point on those reviews.
What about Bloomberg's report that there are trillions of dollars in off-balance sheets transactions that the Federal Reserve has entered into since last September? Are you familiar with those off-balance sheet transactions?
You know, I think it may be important at this point, too, just to bring up a certain aspect related to our jurisdiction. And just to clarify perhaps some of my earlier comments. We are the Inspector General for the Board of Governors, and we have direct oversight over board programs and operations, and are also able to look at board-delegated functions to the reserve banks, as well as the board's oversight and supervision of the reserve banks. We do not have jurisdiction to directly go out and audit reserve bank activities specifically. Nevertheless, in our lending facilities project, for example, we are looking at the board's oversight over the program, and to the extent that extends out to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York.
Well, I have a copy of the Inspector General Act here in front of me, and it says, among other things, that it's your responsibility to conduct and supervise audits and investigations relating to the programs and operations of your agency.
That's correct.
So I'm asking you if your agency has, in fact, according to Bloomberg, extended $9 trillion in credit, which, by the way, works out to $30,000 for every single man, woman, and child in this country. I'd like to know, if you're not responsible for investigating that, who is?
We have responsibility for the Federal Reserve's programs and operations, audits, to conduct audits and investigations in that area. In terms of who's responsible for investigating, would you mind repeating the question one more time?
What have you done to investigate the off-balance sheet transactions conducted by the Federal Reserve, which, according to Bloomberg, now total $9 trillion in the last 8 months?
I'll have to look specifically at that Bloomberg article. I'm not, I don't know if I have actually seen that particular one.
That's not the point. The question is, have you done any investigation or auditing of off-balance sheet transactions conducted by the Federal Reserve?
At this point, we're conducting our lending facility project at a fairly high level and have not gotten to a specific level of detail to really be in a position to respond to your question.
Have you conducted any investigation or auditing of the losses that the Federal Reserve has experienced on its lending since last September?
We're still in the process of conducting that review. Until we actually go out and gather the information. I'm not in a position to really respond to the specific question.
So are you telling me that nobody at the Federal Reserve is keeping track on a regular basis of the losses that it incurs on what is now a $2 trillion portfolio?
I don't know if you're telling me that you're mentioning that there's losses. I'm just saying that we're not, until we actually look at the program and have the information, we are not in a position to say whether there are losses or to respond in any other way to that particular.
Mr. Chairman, my time is up, but I have to tell you honestly, I am shocked to find out that nobody at the Federal Reserve, including the Inspector General, is keeping track of this.
They ask these people, yeah, where have you taken, I think it was, what was it? $5 trillion that went missing. And they are asking about it, and they're saying, oh, it's under review. Under review, you wonder. Like, what the hell? Under review? 5 billion, not 5 million, not 5 billion, $5 trillion. I think it was 5 trillion. Could have been 3, could have been 8, I don't know, but the number is sort of irrelevant. Yes, the name of trillion at all says it all. It's just shipped to an offshore account wherever in the world, who knows. Probably one of these city-states that's not gonna be entangled with any big sovereign nations where they can hide their finances, like in the recent scandals of, what was it? Damn it, I can't remember what it was, but lots of people cheated with their taxes. Anyways, so these rich people cheat with money all the time, because obviously that's how you grow fat, big money, is by mixing with these percentages. But we can only hope that someone like Trump is gonna try to reverse the problems that have happened. And I think it's very nice how they also did the movie when they walked in time travel to look through all the different times and go through the events. I mean, first they were kind of directly aiming towards the feds, the banks, but then they went back all the way in time to go in a more chronological order, which I think was brilliant. By doing this, they really helped show the formation of the structure and showing that this idea, the very idea of turning gold into paper, this evil invention, have existed from long before and still lives on today. And this have also been fought by recent leaders, great American heroes, etc. And I mean, these Rothschilds, they have helped invest on the freaking communist bastards. I mean, where did Trotsky get his millions from? And it's kind of hypocritical, really, because this Leon Trotsky, he actually lived with a rich family, having a private chauffeur and having rich dinners. I don't remember where it was, if it was in England or France or America, wherever it was. He was in France, then he got banished, and he went to America, he was set in prison. Of course, you know, at this time, the British didn't like the communist bastards, because obviously, if they would make any disturbance with the political power in Russia, who was their allies in the First World War against the Germans, obviously it would be a dangerous thing. But others disagreed, so they received, the communists, donations from America, Britain and Germany, and who knows from if they were from other places, but these are the ones I've seen reports on. And these people created things like the Antifa, the things that are going on right now. I think it was founded by Leon Trotsky himself. But anyways, so they were trained and stuff like that in America for combat, these partisan fighters who was gonna storm down the Russian Empire. But they don't understand the word empire, the communists, because what these socialists don't understand, these communists, is that it's still an imperialism what they have, even though they're saying we are going to take away the empire, blah blah blah, and make it fair. And this socialistic dream is a lie. I've probably said it a few times in my other videos, but it's a lie. It's about demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization. It's to change the people's perception of things and think they are happy, but they're not. I mean, they really are doing like the globalists, lowering the pace of people making it sort of worthless to work. I mean, here in Sweden, it's sort of the same thing. They lower the income of those who have the lowest to make room for more people who's gonna work like slaves. I mean, you work 8 hours a day and you can have a really hard work, and you're basically just gonna earn just as much money as you're gonna earn by staying at home, getting welfare. It's not really more than that. I mean, of course, you can perhaps buy something more than you would otherwise, but it's, you know, really like being away 8 hours a day, working your ass off, or being at home 8 hours a day and getting almost just about as much money. It's sickening to my gut. I mean, when you work, you should be paid fair and square. Like even in Persia, people understood this. But no, it's all a lie. Socialism, communism doesn't work. It never will, because it's a lie. And the globalists wants this because they will impoverish the people and manipulate them. And people pay us extremely high taxes. There was a scandal. You remember in the movie when Pyle had to pay just as much tax money as he earned, right? Because the IRS came and blah, 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 blah. It's fever, like they said. But here in Sweden, we had this, or we still have, but they recalculated because there was a giant, huge scandal from before. One of our most famous authors, Astrid Lindgren. She is an author who made characters like Pippi Longstockings, Emil I Lönneberga, I don't know what it is in English. But anyway, she wrote her book and she gained quite a bit of money, right? But she had to pay 102% in tax. 102%, or was it 103? I don't remember exactly, but it was more than she was earning. It's sickening. Like, what the hell? But I think what happened in this scenario was that due to that she earned so much money, the tax just heavily increased. So all of a sudden, rather than just increasing by a few percentage, it's just blow out of proportion. And all of a sudden it was over 100%. But of course, the prime minister, I think he had to resign, and they changed the law because obviously, when the people realize they're getting cheated, like they did in the movie, they will get pissed. But nowadays, they have such a grip on Sweden. Doesn't matter what you say to them and show them the truth, they're just gonna be in denial and say,
No, it's not true. That's impossible.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
True, that's not true, you're racist, you don't know the facts. Like, okay, well, I just stated you the facts. That's what communism does, propaganda. It's the best thing. So this is the intention of these bankers, to make people think that communism is a good thing, and it's only a hypocrisy. In China, they even took the businesses and made it all governmental control. But then they decided, let's spread it out, the wealth, to those who are in political power. But then they realized, the people might get angry, so now we're gonna make sure that companies gets back to the people. But they had already robbed the people. Socialism robs off the people. Even though they talk about welfare and equality and all of these things, it's just a method to gain your trust, and they will rob you blind. You won't even know about it, because they will tell you in the propaganda networks, the media, the news, whatever, the schools, they are freaking propaganda systems. They will tell you that it's all right. But enough of that. I made quite a good propaganda video. But socialism in its essence are the core of these bad things. The things in the movie, I think if there was something I had to point out that I think was historically inaccurate, it was only a small thing. You remember when they jumped into the court, whatever it was, where Jefferson was holding this speech about the banks would rob off the people. The things he said was real, but I think it was written in a letter, because a famous author or something like that, a friend to him, I don't remember, but he wrote a book about the banks, and I think what he wrote was a letter to this author stating these things. But I could be wrong, of course, but I think that's at least how it went on. You see, it's also a way for people to have a better understanding than having a letter where it's gonna assess these things. It's to make it better in the cinematic point of view. But that's the thing, it's all about deception with money. They're robbing us blind and we are forced to accept it. If we're gonna talk against this, we might be mentally ill, we might need medication and stuff like that. They call us conspiracy theorists and whatever, but it's still the truth you try to produce. You try to do reportage, you try to investigate, but they're just gonna denounce you, call you crazy and whatever. But you can't let these people fool you, because financial martial law, have you heard about it? That have happened quite a few times. It's when the money loses its value. It have happened many times in America, and it happened in Europe, etc. Just about anywhere in the world have this happened. It's when the government, because the government is a function, right? They tell people to pay taxes. Technically, people don't need to pay them taxes. Why should people pay them taxes? But since they claim that their country is their country, therefore it means that you have to pay to be a part of that country, to be a part of that nation. But what happens in a financial martial law? Martial law is normally when the military jumps in and, for example, in a catastrophe or rebellious activity goes on, then they can move in their tanks and, point their gun and try to normalize the situation. But with financial martial law, it's different, because here the money is so out of place that they really need some desperate measures to regain it. There's multiple ways with financial martial law. I remember Ron Paul talked about this and he made some very interesting points. For example, first of all, they could come to you and force you to buy a worthless piece of paper with all of your saved up money or something like that. It's crazy. And you will never be able to do anything with that piece of paper. It's just useless. They're just gonna come and tell you, yep, all of your money is sort of useless now, so we want you to pay for this. And they can force you to sell your summer place if you have. For example, in an immigration crisis, they can force you to sell your property. I remember I had lots of relatives that was forced to sell their farms, their houses, and split their territory because of immigration, etc. It's horrifying what they did. And now when you look at the places where they had their houses, it's just... Sometimes it's not even anything there. They just scrapped the project and had to force them tear down their house and everything. Some places are just Arabic ghettos. It's insanity. The thing is that they can force you to buy things, sell things, and also, if you imagine all the retired people, they have quite a lot of money in their banks usually. They can say, oh, well, if we take about 30% of all of the money that the old people, retired people in America have, then they would gain like $3 trillion by doing that, by taking a 30% of every retired person's savings. And sometimes they could even take more. And in historical line, they took money, and these old people, they had no place to live. They were bankrupt. So if they have sons and daughters, they would go and move into them. That's why you can see in older movies that people lived together with their grandparents, etc. Sometimes because of this very reason, that either they could not take care of themselves or that they were bankrupt by a financial martial law. This have happened even in the 1900s after this signing that they did with the central banks, etc. And it have happened before. But you get the point. It's a very dangerous thing where you can lose all your savings. I mean, you can save all your life. For example, me, I'm trying to save for a new place. I want to move to a place where I'm not surrounded by Arabs everywhere. And all of those money could one day just be gone like that. The crazy politicians we have in Sweden, they say immigration is good, but other numbers says not so much. The global elite says by year 2030 that Sweden will become a third world country. A third world country. That doesn't mean that Swedish is rich. It means we're going backwards. And why is this? Yes, we take in massive amounts of immigrants that we have done since the 1970s, I think. And that's when the socialistic guys started to come into real power and start to force their agendas onto people all of the time. And professors since that time have said, this is very dangerous what we're doing. This could really rob our social infrastructure, etc. But of course, like we'll listen to that. Rather than thinking that homosexuality is a birth defect, they think it's perfection. It's perfection. You should not try to find a cure for it. You should embrace it. And we should encourage children to become transgenders. That's how wicked we have become. And in schools, with political correctness and everything, we're trying to make everything gender neutral. You can't say freshmen. I think there was a guy who got warning on his test, or perhaps even failed. I don't remember. He said, next time, make it gender neutral. Fresh men to fresh people. It's insanity what's going on. And people need to wake up to these things. And that's what people, at least what me, I'm just a normal guy. I'm a guy who goes to work. I'm a guy who's looking for work. I'm a guy living. I'm playing video games, as you can probably see on my other videos. I'm just trying to speak out because obviously there's not enough sane people left on the world. So if the world is going to hell, then, well, I'm gonna try to do an effort to try and help reach out to people and spread these facts. And what these videos I'm doing is all about is to help you understand that things are going on. Go out and try to look for yourself. If you feel skeptical about what I say, look it up for yourself. That's the best way for you to understand these things. But of course, maybe you're not a good researcher, but look into other videos and check references. Check out InfoWars. They are great people talking about these things all the time. I mean, sure, they might sound a bit little cuckoos at times, but it's sort of for entertainment and stuff like that. Entertainment is sort of an important aspect to maintain an audience, but obviously the truth is on our side. Who fights against the globalist? The globalist comes out with all of these crazy things. You're just hateful for criticizing. Hate. It's not free anymore, and we have to retake the freedoms they take away, because this American dream is not the only thing that have been taken. Our cultural heritage are being raped and murdered in Europe. And this imperialism that is arising of communism will doom us all. Look at Cambodia. What happened with Pol Pot? He removed his cultural heritage to make room for the new party's culture. Only culture like art of the communistic leaders can exist. It's insanity. And the millions of people that dies. And people are just forgetting all this, say, socialism is so great. Yay, globalism. Buy conservatism. Or, as they would say, fascism, racism, whatever. But they're blind. They can't see. And we need to help them see that they're being used as just tin soldiers. They're not used even as a puppet. For God's sakes, they're slaves. That's what communism is, and that is what it will make you. But people need to realize this sooner rather than later. So this movie is only the beginning of what's going to happen. So please heed my warnings and do some research and spread the word. Hope you enjoyed this movie, and please share it to your friends and spread the word. Thank you.